was a weekend in which a football team became champion of their league. And no, I'm not talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. Pretty much talking about Inter. It's all but wrapped up. Hopefully, I could jinx it, as I talked about last week with Nima here on the Calcio Guys. Gianni, Adriano, I'm Nicholas. How you guys doing?
Not as busy as Johnny, but I'm doing good.
A little mentally tired, but whatever. It's life. We'll get through it.
We come here to joke around, forget about that stuff, support each other like real kings, and have fun, and end up throwing a bit of trash talk between our teams. But I mean, Inter is Inter. That's how we got to start the show. They come out against your Roma, Gianni, over the weekend. I think it was what was it on Saturday? Come from behind win 4-2. 7 points on top now in the Serie. Mainly thanks to Juve dropping points today against Udinese. A frustrating game. Just terrible month for Juve after a pretty darn good January, especially after the loss last week against Inter, coupled with this loss against Udinese. Think back a couple of weeks ago, the draw against Empoli. Inter's just running away with it now. 7 points up with still a game in hand, guys. And we're going to talk about Champions League coming up. But at this point, I mean, you're going to, Inter, it's not in the bag. There's still a lot of soccer left to be played. 15 games left for Inter, 14 games left for everyone else below them. But, considering Champions League is coming up, considering Inter does play Atletico next week, like, do you think Inter kind of focuses a bit on Champions League now and kind of hits cruise control in Serie A while maintaining a good pace?
It's tough. It's tough to say. I think they, last season they did what they did. They made it all the way to the final. We said it before. People know. They've just added more depth, right, this season, and they've got an Inter B that is probably capable of going toe to toe with majority of the teams in Serie A. So I think that's been on their side. They've gotten a lot of things right. They've had luck on their side. They've gone through certain moments in the season where was maybe a bit more difficult. I still don't think it's been as difficult as people are making it seem, but regardless, they've done their business. Led by a manager that I've said on this show multiple times that I'm not a huge fan of in Simone Inzaghi, but you know what? He's proven the doubters wrong, myself wrong. So far, he's done well. So you can't really say too much. And he's definitely just evolved, I think, as a manager. We spoke obviously last week with Nima and in depth with Inter, but I don't know if they're going to focus more on one or the other. I think they've had their goal in mind in Serie A, and obviously in Europe they want to continue to do well. So I think it's not really a fact of they're going to put more emphasis on one or the other. I think they're going to be able to handle both of them, both competitions, and I think it's just a matter of time to see, where they fall in terms of Serie A, in terms of Serie A results, in terms of how far they get along with Champions League. So I think it's a waiting game, but again, they could still slip up. I mean, like Nick said, the guys, there is still time. The game in hand is what obviously people are going to circle in terms of, do they pick up those points? That becomes 10 points above Juve, 11 above Milan if they get those points, right? So I think it's still a wait and see, but yeah, they're definitely, we've said it multiple times, guys. It's no secret. They're on top for a reason, and it's a matter of the teams below them capitalizing on if the big if Inter slips up. So, but we spoke about it last week. It would be catastrophic if they were to lose the Scudetto, because I think it's in their hands. It's about them crossing the finish line. But yeah, maybe the tortoises in Juve or Milan maybe get across before the hare, but it seems a bit unlikely going forward.
It's completely up into the hands of Inter. Like if something like perfectly said, something catastrophic, if there's like an injury bug that hits the team, or I don't know, like just things just fall apart at the seams, which It's very unlikely because it's a group that's been together for a good while now. They added like Marcus Thuram this year. They added some very good depth to the team. Next year they're getting even better. They're adding Zelinski to the midfield.
And Mehdi Taremi for up top. So
it's a team that has been slowly building up to becoming what they are today, and they want to maintain that. Obviously, it remains to be seen about the financial situation, how they're going to pull this off. So for them, they need to get those deep runs in Champions League, and they need to win the Scudetto to like actually like get some financial help for that. It's feasible. I mean, they made it to the finals last year. Can they make it to the finals again? I don't see them hitting finals just because of the push that they're doing. I think maybe semis where they kind of like peter out a bit, but like or peter out, whatever the term, petered out a bit. Anyways, the point is where they start to like get weaker. They won't be able to make it through the semis. I think that's what they hit, but I think at the Scudetto, literally, it would take some form of like catastrophic event for it to not work out for them.
Yeah, it really. I think Juve fans, we've been saying all year, hopefully Inter goes far in the Champions League. The run out of gas in Serie, but Adria, as you said, they basically have Inter B out there, and there's just we've talked about it over time and time again, so much depth. But looking below the table is more for me and Adriano. You got Juve now at 53 and Milan at 52. Milan will be playing in the Europa League. They picked things up again. Big win this weekend against Napoli. Maybe Gianni could talk about that after. But Milan's going to be playing in the Europa League again against Rennes. This is a competition where you play more games. You play 2 extra games if you want to get to the final compared to the Champions League. They're going to be playing 2 Thursdays in a row, and then if they advance, they play 2 more Thursdays in a row. And it's a tiring competition. Juve did that last year. It takes a lot of the players. But, looking at where both teams are, Juve hasn't won in 3 straight games, and Milan's on the opposite side. They won their last 2. They drew the game before that, and they won 2 before that. But is there a team? Like, you look at the top 4, like Milan, Juve is safely in the top 4. They're Milan's 13 points up on 5th place Bologna. Juve is 14 points up. Again, not to say that these places are locked in, but with 14 games left, both teams are going to have a catastrophic collapse to not make Champions League. So, they're kind of in no man's land right now, 2 and 3. Of course, at the end of the day, they always want pride. There's more money for finishing second versus finishing third. But do you think a team, more for AG, between these 2 teams, do you think one has an advantage? Because as a Juve fan on one end, I'm seeing them start to, I wouldn't say collapse. This kind of happened last year too, where come February, something goes wrong. But then on the other hand, Milan could be playing 4 Thursdays out of the next 5 or 6 weeks, which takes a lot. And I don't know if they have that depth. So I think it's a toss-up. I still want to say Juve has the advantage, but I'm not convinced at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess on paper you can probably say that. You can argue that point. I beginning of the season, I didn't put as much emphasis of Juve not playing 3 times a week into their form of this year and where they're positioned currently. So obviously kudos to them for being able to get to the point that they're at. But yeah, like 2024, I mean, to enter this new year, Milan has done well. I don't think they've, off the top of my head, I don't think they've lost in 2024 besides Coppa Italia against Atalanta, if I'm not mistaken.
In the calendar year of 2024, Milan's the best team right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
I don't think they've lost. Like in Serie A, the only loss I can think of is the Atalanta one, like I said. So, they've picked up, a lot of points so far in 2024. But again, these are moments throughout the season, right? Like Juve was looking good up until these last couple of weeks. So again, it's no guarantee, it's no lock, I don't think. Again, to go off of Nick's point, I mean, like I said, on paper, I think you can say it's Juve probably has that advantage with not being able to, we're not having to play, multiple games in the week. But it's still for the taking. Like, I don't think either team is really out of that second, third place, no man's land, like you said. It's unfortunate that that's kind of where they are at. I think it would have been a bit more exciting if it was a tad closer to first place, to see like where these three teams can kind of finish. But I don't see either team really taking this last part of the season lightly. I think they should at least go for it to the max of their abilities. But I'm curious to see how Milan handles Europa League. This is a team that has dealt with a lot of injuries this season, and has went through many different ups and down moments. And every week it seems like there's something new. So listen, we'll take the good with the good, we'll take the bad with the bad. But I don't think any team, besides, like I said, on paper you can say Juve has. I don't really think any team has like a clear cut advantage per se. If you kind of take off your Juve or Milan biases, if you take that out of the consideration, I don't really think there's much of an advantage. At the end of the day, these teams have to go onto the pitch, have to perform, have to pick up the points. It's the games where, like for Milan, for example, that it's the games against these lower oppositions where they're not picking up maximum points, where it's like, fuck, we needed those points and we didn't pick them up. So far they've done well against more or less the bigger teams in Serie A. So, and like I said, and Johnny even put out the fact they're the best team in the new calendar year of 2024. So yeah, it's a good start of this year. We'll see how far it goes. I'm hoping for it to end well, but yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things, like you said, Nick. I think it's more of a toss up than anything. It's that coin toss. Are we going to take the ball in overtime? Or are we not going to take the ball? Who knows? Right. So we'll see. We'll see how it pans out.
And I just spoke about it, the 1-0 Milan win over Napoli in the one of the Derby del Calcio Guys. That Adriano did an amazing graphic. If you could see on our Twitter, Instagram, the Calcio Guys, of Adriano and Gianni photoshopped onto players
Maldini.
from the 90s. I don't know.
Maldini
and I guess Maradona.
Maradona,
yeah. Onto their bodies playing against each other. But so that was a good little chuckle between the three of us before the game. But it was 1-0 game goal from Teo. But Gianni, now for Napoli, you look at the standings. Back to this whole Champions League top four, because we really are in that final stretch now. 15 games left for Napoli. They're 7 points off of Atalanta, who also have the game in hand versus everyone else. So between Atalanta and Napoli, there's no advantage. 7 points is really, it's not insurmountable, especially when you're the defending champions. But the way Napoli's playing, and you know what's really interesting, Johnny? I'm looking at their schedule. They haven't won back-to-back games since September, and at that point, they only won 2 back-to-back. Their highest streak of games won in a row was 2 this year. They won the first 2 games of the season, and then they beat Udinese and Lecce in September, which is crazy. They haven't lost many back-to-back games either, so they're a really they win one, draw one, lose one type of team. Do you have any hope for Champions League? I think Europe in general is a better goal, but Champions League, do you think it's a bit too out there, especially with all the teams in front of them as well?
Well, I mean, since day one, I've been saying consistency has been something I've been asking for from this team, and it's been nearly impossible to get. And you just said it perfectly. If Roma or Napoli don't finish top four, it'll be the first time since 2011, 2012 that neither of my teams made it into Champions League spots.
Oh, wow.
I actually went. I was curious myself.
You looked it up.
Okay, I looked it up. I was curious. I'm like, there has to be like something somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah, so it would have been since 2013, 2012, 2011, 2012. So I think honestly, top four is impossible for Napoli at this point. The inconsistency is what's going to ruin them. You can't make top four. You can't make top four if you just
Put it
can't
this
string
way.
together wins. You need to be able to string together wins. At this pace, what Napoli's doing is not stringing wins together. So, in my personal opinion, it ain't happening. Um, it looks more likely that Roma might actually get into that top four slot than Napoli, but I digress. What I do hope for them is that they get some kind of like structure or plan going into the next year. Maybe like an idea of who's going to be the coach next year. Also, if you want to continue with Mazzari or not. I mean, I think Mazzari is just a band-aid right now. That back line needs help. That's another thing that needs to get fixed and settled. There's a lot of planning that needs to happen, and that's where I sit with Napoli right now.
Yeah, no, I think it's well said. I think it's crazy. And Nick, I'm glad you brought that up because I did not realize that either. In terms of they're not able to string wins like that back to back. That's pretty crazy. I mean, um, this title defense by Napoli, and again, it's no shot to our Napoli friends, but it's been pretty bad. So I think, like Johnny said, I think they have to be planning for next year. Um, I wouldn't say, okay, yeah, this rest of this Serie season is a wash. No, you obviously still want your team to fight and to show some sort of signs of something to cling on to go into it next year with. But I don't know. I think we're going to hopefully we see a whole new Napoli next season because this is crazy. Like, from going last season, they were like almost untouchable to now it's like, you know, you're not afraid to go to the Maradona like you were last season. You're not afraid to go against this team that was playing such beautiful culture last season. So that has been one thing that's really been a big thing for me, looking on the outside in. But even just going into the game over on yesterday, I don't know. I just think Napoli didn't convert on their chances. I know we say this a lot with our teams at least, but I think that was kind of the fact of the game of the matter. I mean, when you're playing these big games against big teams and you only have a certain amount of opportunities to score and you don't, it's usually that bites you in the ass, unless some sort of heroics happens in the final stretch of games. But that early chance by Simeone that ringed off the post, Milan was able to take one shot, one goal. It was the
One
deciding one.
opportunity to seize everything they ever wanted.
Yeah, exactly, right. So yeah, but no, that's exactly it. So that one opportunity, that one goal by Teo, and I think it was obviously a great play. That little trifecta of obviously Leao, Giroud, Teo, Giroud, Leao, off to Teo, Teo making that run and scoring the goal, and that way out, Teo Hernandez connection on the left side. We've said it times on this podcast. People are calling it Teao in the Milan verse of social media, but and I know Leao has been getting a lot of criticism this season for not being himself in terms of a goal scorer, but he's been able to provide, and I think he had a good game. Even though people are probably going to say he didn't, I think he had a good game. And even in the stretch of games where he's been getting criticized, I think there's obviously moments where he's the body language is not there. He's not showing that fight, that grinta. I agree, but when he's having those mediocre games, I still think he's showing something and trying to produce something. Because when he goes on those runs and when he makes those passes and creates, it's almost unstoppable. So yeah, obviously big points for Milan, the 3 points to get closer to Juve, and now we're only 1 point behind with today's result against Udinese. But happy for that. But I think Napoli, this wasn't a Napoli that was like we're used to seeing. So like I said, happy for Milan's result. A lot of players stepped up. And you know what? They look good doing it too in the new fourth kits that they unveiled this past week, and got to showcase it over the weekend. So yeah.
Jenny, you talk about Roma and Napoli not making Champions League, and while you guys were talking, I was curious: was there a season in which Roma and Napoli both fired their coaches? Let's see if you're. I looked it up, so I already know the answer. But let's see if you know this.
In the same season they fired their coach?
In the same season.
Well,
Was it when hold on? When Gattuso and when Ancelotti and Di Francesco were fired?
No, those one Roma with Di Francesco's 18-19 season, and then Gattuso was fired in the 2019-2020 season. But same year, same calendar year, just different seasons.
That's a good question, actually.
Spalletti? No,
not
Spalletti.
No, it was a good.
Well, it was not. When was it? Was
it when? No, because Mourinho got hired during Spalletti being at Napoli.
You likely won't remember this, so I'll just.
Yeah,
was it Mazzari's first time? No.
It's not this decade. It's not the 2010s either.
Okay.
In 2004-2005, when Napoli was actually in Serie, they went through two managers, one of which was our friend Gianpiero Ventura. And that season, Roma went through an incredible four managers. I don't know how. Jeez. Bruno Conti, Luigi Del Neri, Rudy Voller, and Cesare Prandelli. I don't know how that happened, but solo in Italia moment to go four managers in a season, which is actually, especially for a top club. Usually you see this at teams like Frosinone, Chievo Verona, Salernitana, Crotone, but not Roma. So if anyone has a time machine and could tell us what happened in 2004-2005 with Roma,
we gotta go back.
And what went wrong, please tell us.
I wouldn't know about Napoli because at the time they were in Serie C. Like, only started following them again when they're in Serie B, because that's when YouTube also became a thing. So I was able to watch them and see them. Before that, I was just like, oh, cool. Like, I would Google it and just to see how they were doing, but that's about it. I didn't pay into much details of like players or whatnot.
Yeah, I can't blame you, honestly, and then especially with the coach they had then, I wouldn't follow the team either with Gianpiero Ventura.
I don't think a lot of us would.
No. But we spoke about Roma. We spoke about Napoli. We spoke a bit about Milan. But another thing about Roma, I was also just looking at their schedule. They have, I think it's eight losses this season. All but two of them were actually against teams. All but. Oh, I lost it. I lost my tab. I'm on the wrong tab now. Sorry, guys.
The unprofessional guys.
Technical difficulty guys.
I have so many tabs open now. It's so many Wikipedias of
your brain has so many
managers.
Tabs open.
What?
Your brain has too many tabs open.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. All but two losses were against teams actually above them in the standings. So they lost against Verona and Genoa, so teams below them. Then they lost against Milan. They lost against Inter twice. They lost against Bologna and they lost against Juve, and they did lose against Milan a second time. So they lost against Milan twice, Inter twice, Milan, Bologna, and Juve,
Bologna,
and Juve. Yeah. So on one hand, you'll say like these are the teams you need to beat if you want to qualify for top four. But on the other hand, losing against these teams isn't the worst thing ever. It's not like Juve dropping points today against Udinese after they dropped points against Empoli. Like, these are more or less respectable losses. Of course, that loss against Bologna could really hurt them if they want to get that fifth spot, which could potentially turn into a Champions League spot in the future. But even losing this weekend, Gianni, 4-2 against Inter, it's really not the worst thing.
No, it's and it was a game where they went into half with the lead. The team was feeling it. They were firing on all cylinders. It's just obviously Inter's the better team. They just played much better. Lukaku fumbled a really good opportunity. It happens.
Yeah.
But that might have changed the game. It would have made it 3-3. But that fourth goal was they got caught on the counterattack for overextending, and what do you expect?
That fourth goal was kind of like an empty net in hockey. It was kind of
Yeah, it's like it's coming, and it's like
Yeah.
the only way it's not going to happen is if the player fucking misses, because
Yeah.
you could have, like, sometimes the best keeper in the world won't be able to stop anything because they can go anywhere. It's hard to predict or read where the shot's going because they can just basically go anywhere. You just got to make yourself as big as possible.
Yeah.
There was maybe like the third goal was where, like, the tying goal was where I was kind of mad at the team from seeing it. It was just like where's the defensive coverage? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was just, how did that get through? But Thuram's this season has been lights out. He's been really great for the team. We said it before. Great pickup for them, and he's showcasing it. So that's where I basically sit with.
I think it also was like how they lost the lead and how they lost the game. Like, I think the effort was there. I mean, and it was pouring rain. Like, I think our boy Chris DeSantis was there, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure he was in the Curva, but it was like pouring rain, and like, I don't know, man. Like, under De Rossi, I know it's just for now. I would think we'll see come the summertime, but he has them playing with some sort of, obviously, fight, and it's as a neutral or as an outsider, it's encouraging to see that they didn't just lay over. Even in the pregame press conference, he even said it. Yeah, we have to show respect, but not too much respect to Inter. Like, we still have to go there. We are Roma. We're playing at home. We're playing in front of 60,000. We have to go play our game and go out there and fight. So you love to see that out of any team. Obviously, seeing De Rossi as a player and now seeing him as a manager, and he brings that, and especially in Rome, he's if it wasn't for Totti, he would be the king of Rome himself. So call him the prince, call him whatever you want, but I like what he's brought as in terms of mentality for this team, which I think kind of lost a bit of that killer instinct and that grinta a bit in the tail end of Mourinho. So I think that's one encouraging thing, and it's unfortunate, I think, in the loss, but for me it was more how they lost it. But at the end of the day, like we've said, Inter's the better team, and I know we spoke to Nima last week, and he said, if Inter wins this game, it's even more of an extension at the top, like we mentioned earlier. And for Roma, I think it's, you accept the loss. I think heads held up high, even though it was a loss at home. But there's so many teams in this fight for that fourth spot for Europe in general. So it's a damper, but I don't think it's a dagger for Roma.